Hey guys, it's Adam from Tested, and I'm standing here in my shop with friend of Tested, friend of Adam, friend of me, I don't talk about myself in the third person, and master foam maker, Bill Doran.
Howdy.
Howdy, sir. How
Good
are
to
you?
be here for the first time.
Dude, I can't believe you haven't been here before. That's ludicrous.
I know.
That is like stupid.
I have to crawl out of my cave every once in a while.
You're producing like a video a week out of there? A build, a video, and plans every single week?
That's what we do.
That's why you can't leave.
I know, right? My wife is now currently at home manning the fort.
Okay.
Building foam armor right now, which is
awesome.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
And we've got a collaboration coming up in our quarterly box, the foam build. But have you been injured? Why are you wearing this cast?
So I got this ring a long time ago, and over time, I've felt inspired to become one of these guys.
So you are wearing one of my Scott Maple and Crop Circle constructed Nazgul gauntlets from the Ringwraiths from Lord of the Rings. It is real steel. It feels
great.
Doesn't it feel amazing? I mean, so Crop Circle put this together in a way that it's real armor. Like it has all of the properties and functionality of a genuine piece of usable armor. The steel is thick enough. There are slots in the rivets so that you actually have no limitation of movement like this. And you can do this. Do it. See? So. You're clearly obsessed with this object, and you come into the shop, and that's great because this is a shrine to obsession.
It is.
You want to do something about it?
I think so.
You want to make something of it?
Anyone at home who wants to make armor like this, maybe they don't have all the tools to do steel, but they might have the right tools to do foam.
So you think we could make a foam pattern and foam Nazgul gauntlet?
We can. In just one day.
Awesome.
So that's what we're gonna do.
Once we're done with this, we'll put the plans up so people can make their own.
Sure. Yeah.
This is going to be really fun.
Yes.
Really fun. Okay, where do we start?
I did a little bit of work earlier today on these tiny little finger bits here. And I drew a quick pattern in Illustrator and used the laser to cut them out.
All this morning?
All this morning.
Dude.
Lasers are awesome. If you don't have a laser, you could cut them out by hand. No big deal. But if you have a laser, I mean...
If you have access to a makerspace, it'd be pretty easy to take the file that we'll put at the end of this build and go out and just laser cut, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... so that's 20, 40, there's 46 of these identical pieces. Yep. I have cut stuff like that out by hand. We all have, that's what it's about, but also the laser makes it easy.
All about 4mm EVA foam here.
Is that a little thick for this?
A little thick. I didn't have any black 2mm, so this is what I used.
Well, I think I have some.
If so, we can just tell the laser to do it again later and zip them out real fast.
But this is really so you've left a little tab on them
so they don't
fall
away.
Out.
And there we go. A little hole for a rivet.
We'll bend those with heat.
Yeah.
Okay. And then look at that. That matches. It's like a little crown of goodness. Yeah. Boop. It looks to me, Bill, like we could make this file a little wider.
Yep, we definitely can. You know what? The thickness of the foam will affect the profile.
Yes.
And then these I only need 5 of. I'll show how I'm going to do those by hand, just with an X-Acto knife, which you could do them all that way if you don't have a laser.
And we will slowly work out a set of patterns and make a gauntlet.
Yes, and then I figure I can get cracking on those, and the rest of these bits up here you can start doing.
I'll start patterning those out.
Yeah, you could just put masking tape on here to make your pattern.
Okay.
Start cranking it out.
Okay, we'll do. I have some leather that we can actually use to attach these to.
There we go.
So this is something that a lot of people don't know about gauntlets. How are these lames all attached to the finger? Well, each one, as Bill has drawn here, has a hole in its back, and each of those holes is a place for a rivet. And each of those rivets doesn't go through the glove, it actually goes through a piece of leather. So a leather strip is created with each of these lambs on top of it. And then that leather strip is glued, and in the olden days, sewn to the leather glove on the side. And it provides this really very, very robust attachment between your hand and the finger lambs. So yeah, we can get our 5 pieces of leather strip out of that for the fingers.
Great. Can work together. I will go with the tips here and cover these in tape to pull a pattern off them.
All right. Here you go. Here's some tape for you. Yeah, Ippolito and I did this kind of patterning for the Martian space.
Yeah.
I know, you're wondering where we are in the Martian build, and the answer is it's moving forward just a little bit slowly.
So because this, with the thickness of the foam,
yeah,
it was a little bit thin, I'm going to just manually enlarge the pattern a tiny bit.
That makes sense.
I'll do that with normal foam builds, like armor.
Yeah.
If I'm doing a whole set of patterns, I'll trace them all in the computer in a vector file, and then scale them up 10%, usually,
to
account for the thickness of the foam.
So the thickness tends to make things a little bit tighter?
A little tighter, yeah.
Ah, that's really good to know. I have a standard 10% exaggeration rate for my stories and for my prop builds.
I could draw a pattern on there, but since this is tape and it sticks down, I'll just trace around it with an X-Acto.
Oh, nice.
So this brass tube has been sharpened. I can use it.
Oh, you want some...
to punch a hole right through.
Oh, that's fast.
Yeah.
That is an awesome solution. I love how low key that is.
Yeah. And you can get, at a hobby store, you can get these in a variety of diameters. Now later, when you use this tube for a different project and you're wondering why it's full of little bits of foam.
Little bits of foam? Yeah, that's cool. No, I mean...
But look at this, ready? You have little foam rivets.
Ooh,
you can glue those down.
No way, of course, right? Oh, yeah.
Just gotta find a way to get them out of there. One of my favorite bits for working with foam are these, believe it or not, these aluminum oxide ones. Because they're not quite as aggressive as like a sanding bit.
Right.
And
so they give you a little more finesse?
Yeah, because if you have like a 100 grit sanding drum on the foam, it'll just go right through it.
Right.
These guys are a little more gentle. That being said, these tiny pieces of foam and a spinning sanding tool of any kind means you will invariably send one of them into Narnia.
Right.
And you'll just have to make it again.
That makes sense. That checks out.
So my cut was a little ragged on this, and I'm just gonna tidy it up a little bit.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
See, these I've found if you use them on steel, they grind themselves down to dust almost immediately. If you use them on aluminum, they gall up immediately.
Yep.
So I've never figured out what these are good for.
I have a bit like this that I've had in my Dremel for 7 years. The same one.
Right, it's just perfect.
You can do, I have a round one. If you need like hammered metal with like a spherical bit, you just go wow, 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 and you get a hammered metal texture.
That's awesome.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time cleaning these up. We'll do that once they're formed and
put in place.
Look like. And any spots that are overlapping, we're not going to see. I'm not going to bother cleaning.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. I will frequently, when I'm doing foam pieces or foam builds, I will do one bit of the build on some scrap foam.
Yes.
Like I'll rip floor mats off the floor. Use those. Assemble it. And then recut it until it fits just right, and then take it all apart and remake my patterns off of that, and then do it again with better foam. Most costume pieces like that I end up building twice.
Yeah.
The second one is so good.
I do the same. It's always the second one is really good, right?
Does every prop you do you have a favored side where you like the paint job is totally better on that?
Yeah, I often prioritize, when I'm painting, I prioritize the part you can't see very clearly. And that allows me to practice, but I'll also sometimes have a second part to just practice new paint techniques on, see how coatings are going to react to stuff. And yeah, the second one's always really
always
trick.
This piece here, I taped off. We can replicate the knuckle a couple times, but it won't lay flat. So we have to decide where we want our seams to be. I'm going to cut it down the middle here and see how well that works. There you go. So when we cut this out of foam, we'll have to glue that back together, but it should work just fine. This piece right here, this cut on the gauntlet is going to have this sharp peak here. So when I make these cuts, I'm going to bevel them in a little bit so that when they glue together, they don't glue flush, they glue at an angle. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it and cutting in that way and cutting in that way. If it's not quite perfect when we glue it together, we can just Dremel it to a nice sharp point. That is our piece. that will go, that'll glue together like so. In fact, I'll use this as a test piece and glue it together. The other thing we want to do to get this ridge here is on the back of it, and this now has a front and a back because of those edges. We'll carve a little channel here so that we can get a nice crease. So I'm just going to eyeball that and carefully cut a little V groove in here. And cut it right in half. Now I can glue these back together. Very thin foam. But I'll get the same effect. I'll try and do that again on the next piece and get it right. But this one I'll just glue back together. I've been tinkering a bit, trying to carve a channel in the back of these really thin pieces. It's tricky to do. It's so thin, the knife keeps going all the way through. I don't want that. So I came up with a pretty cool technique. I've got my piece here, and I'll fold it so the area where I want to trench is exposed, and then I take my Dremel with a sanding bit and remove just a little material. Just a tiny bit, carefully. And then when I lay it flat, there is a nice little trench in there. And then when I glue that together, that'll give us this high peak right there. And that is what we're trying to match with the armored gauntlet there. And then this seam can get glued together, a la this one. And that is our little armored knuckle. I'm gonna keep patterning. I gotta do these side parts on these ones here, so I'll do that. Should be a good time. I can't quite get under there, but I have a pretty good idea what's going on. So I'm gonna get these details, and the edge of that kind of comes around here, and there's a thing there. And so over here, I've been working on the knuckles.
Yeah.
I've got them laid out.
Oh, look at that! Holy crap!
So this, these parts will go on to create the pointy bits.
That's amazing.
Like that.
And this is just these are just little slices that you made and glued, or is this just?
So I've cut a trench in the back of it.
I see.
And then when you barge it up, give it 5 minutes to dry, and then when you pinch it together, you can get that sharp peak.
Dude.
Yeah. And you can go in with a Dremel and sharpen it up more if you want, but this gets it most of the way there.
That's amazing.
And what's cool too, this has sort of a dished profile. So if I kind of overdo those, when I stretch it out,
Yeah.
look at
You
that.
get that super dishing. Oh,
That part in there.
that's brilliant. I love
And then
it.
the other thing too,
Yeah.
when we're finishing this is obviously much thicker than the steel. If we Dremel this leading edge to be
It'll look
thinner,
thin.
it'll look thin, yeah. Doesn't have
That's
to be
great.
thin.
Oh my God, I'm learning so much. So I got these 3 bottom parts done and this inside forearm.
I've been cutting pieces out as I pattern. That's kind of how I do it.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. So that's why
That's the leather. Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
now,
these-
and you're cutting everything out of the 2 mil?
No, these bits here
oh,
I've
look,
been
you
doing.
already laser cut.
Yes, I did.
I don't know when this is happening. It's amazing. Those look great.
Isn't that awesome? And it's 95% there. I could spend another 5 hours tweaking it, but it's really.
So do we curve these before gluing them?
I think
before
we can just
riveting them.
Just hit them with the heat gun and just bend them over a pipe.
Okay.
And they'll kind of hold their
Ooh,
shape.
ooh. I might have something cool. When I made the finger lambs for Terry English for my Excalibur armor, I made a finger lamb bending jig. So we could heat these up and just put them in here, and then they all have the same exact bend, right? They just sit there and...
You could even, because this is durable, you could do that and just hit it with a little hot air while it's in there.
Yeah.
Because if you hit that with hot air, that'll go flying away.
Right. Okay.
We have a hot heat gun right there.
Give it a shot.
See, if you try and blast that little guy, he's probably going to fly away.
Oh.
But if you put him in there...
See, but I'm gonna have to move a lot of heat to get that in there. So, how much heat is too much heat?
If it starts to burn, it doesn't need much, so it's very thin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah. It is so thin and flexible that it will deform back.
Right.
When you touch it.
But that's...
We could also mold the strip of leather a little bit to kind of help it keep its shape.
That's easy enough to do.
Yeah, look at that.
That's fantastic. Okay, I'm going to keep on going.
I'm going to keep going over here. Over here, I've got the piece that I pulled off of the back of the hand here. And I can just cut around that, but I also found a white paint marker, which is awesome for tracing on black foam. And I just trace it out like that. I'll use my sharp tube here to mark my holes. I can finish those after I've cut everything out. For my cut here, these outer cuts are pretty easy, so I can do those by hand with a knife and get them right on. These inner ones, I'll get them close and then finish them off with the Dremel, because that's much easier.
Oh, so concave curves are better to finish with the Dremel.
Yeah.
Than to try and do really exacto blade cuts.
So I've cut them a little oversized, and I put the sanding bit in there.
Okay,
It's really aggressive.
Yeah.
And then I can just come in, and it just eats through that foam.
Wow! I always wondered how people got such nice edges on their foam work, and I had no idea. God, I love information.
And then for the trenches, these lines, they all go to those points, but on the other side, they are here. So I can mark that, mark that, mark that, flip it over, because the trenches must be on the back. So I can transfer these lines now from there to there, there to there, there to there. And then with that really sharp knife, it's vital.
Oh, wow, really? You're honing it every time you need it.
Absolutely. Because you want to make a really clean sort of V-cut like that with very little effort. Otherwise, this stuff will tear. And then you glue that up.
You made that look really easy, though.
I have done thousands of these. Like that. And like that. Man. You could use a ruler if you needed to.
I like the see-through rulers with the
awesome.
metal edge.
Yeah, I don't have one with a metal edge. I need
one
with
dude,
metal
you
edge.
gotta see this thing. Where is it? Yeah.
So
it's literally the brand see-through, and that's
so
a metal.
that you can use it as a
so you can cut against it, but also this will give you always all these lines help you parallelize everything.
Yeah, I have the see-through one, and the edge of it is all dinged up.
Right.
I use it with my X-Acto
That's why you have
knife.
that. Yep.
The B1-M. I'm going to take a picture of that. This trip is costing me so much money. I needed one of those.
That's the most fun part about these collaborations, is the trading of information.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people have just walked through this shop and been like, what's this? Take a picture of it and go and order it. And I do the same in everybody else's shop.
Yep. So that's how we do those pieces. And all of these pieces can be done that way. And here's another trick too. You can just
a squirt bottle.
Because you can fold it back, because it's foam. You fold it like this, and you don't have to worry. You don't have to try and dig in there.
Right.
Fold it, and then you just cover all of it.
Okay.
Like that.
Just one coat?
Yeah, one coat, and let it dry for 5 minutes, and you're good. So I'll just do a couple.
But not for 20. If you let barge glue dry too long, it actually officially dries and won't stick to itself.
Yeah.
So there's this like the sweet spot. And by barge we mean
Any
a good,
cement.
robust contact cement.
There we go. Like that. So we let that chill, or we hit it. Oh yeah, get my hand. I'll hold it. You heat gun me, because my hands are freezing.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's see if this wants to stick. Ready? Yeah, it'll stick. Just press that like that. Press that like that.
Okay, now.
And now when I pull it apart, we have
Look
those.
at that!
And that should line up like that. Look at that! Look at it!
That is so cool, man.
Boom!
I love learning.
Just need to make a couple more of those.
Oh.
I mean, if you're batching, once you have the templates made, if you're batching these out, you could
yeah.
cut each one of these out in 5-10 minutes and basically done.
So here's my technique for. So here's the technique I have built for bending all of these finger lamps so that they are actually curved. So first, I take it and I hold it in the heater for a count to 10 on each side. Then I open up my finger lamp bending jig. The steel draws the heat out, leaves it in a curved form. I throw that over here on the pile, and now you can see there's a nice little curved finger lamp. One of the things I love about this kind of operation is that it can be crushingly exhausting and boring and tedious, and thus I love going through the mental process of figuring out ways to automate it and make it faster. It's actually one of the ways I deal with the tedium of work like this. I'm constantly asking myself, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, how could I be doing this faster? How could I be making this more efficient, more regularized, so that I can work through them as quickly as possible? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in the end, I'll be able to bend all like 40 of these, or however many we've got, in less than 30 minutes, which is not bad. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whew.
These pieces will be attached together like that, but these are not at the correct angle. So I'm gonna Dremel a bevel into that. Also, when I was designing these, I put an F for front on there, so I know which way it's supposed to go. And then I'm just gonna kind of cut this edge a little bit. And then this one as well. All right. So these, when they glue up, will be at the right angle. My barge is cold.
Oh.
And there.
Here, do you want to heat up your barge?
No, it's okay. I get into a cycle where I barge something, set it aside,
Yep.
cut something, stick it together, barge the thing I cut, set it aside, cut something else, get into a good rhythm.
I totally love that exact kind of thing.
Now, if we use real rivets, it might just crush the foam.
I have some leather rivets,
Okay.
which I think could work.
Oh yeah. So they'll only compress so yay far.
Actually, I could do it with eyelets, and that would probably be even better because it's the lowest possible profile.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, so that's for putting these guys on the leather. For these bits, to connect these.
Oh yeah.
And
oh right.
An eyelet might just crush it too much that it won't have any movement.
No, yeah. So
that's why I'm thinking Chicago screws. Oh, that'd be a lot.
I have a crap ton of Chicago screws. Yeah. Sortimo 37. 37. Here it is. There we go.
So. Yeah, and then we don't have to tighten it quite all the way. It just, if there's a little bit of friction there, it'll be okay.
Is that enough? Is that good?
Yeah, and then it can still rotate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and some of these need to be slots.
Right.
We can elongate them with a Dremel.
We certainly can.
When we figure that out.
Index is 7 holes. Middle is 8 holes. Ring is 7 holes. How long? There we go. 8 holes divided across 3.675 inches. Cool. If you just measure the distance between 2 of the rivets and you've got it slightly wrong, you end up with an introduced error, as I did the first time I tried to do this. And when I extrapolated out that distance across the 8 holes needed for the middle finger, I don't mean to be holding this up intentionally, I had way too long a finger. So I had to then measure out the longest digit, which is the middle finger, and divide it by 8, because that's the number of lambs that are there, and then I got a much more accurate measurement without all that introduced error. So that's what just happened. I find that it's really good, tell me if you agree with this, Bill, to count out loud to yourself.
Yeah.
1.
I talk to myself a lot in the shop.
2. Yep. 3. 4.
This kit right here of tools is really most of what I use when I'm doing foam work. I've got my rotary tool, a couple sharp knives, a couple of different rotary bits, metal ruler, pipe for cutting holes, a white marker or a silver Sharpie will be awesome, and a dark Sharpie for drawing on my patterns, my glue, and my foam. And that's mostly it for like 95% of the foam work I do. It's not a lot. Like you can get this whole batch of tools at Harbor Freight for, you know, $30. You're good to go.
And the last one is the thumb, which is 5. So, do you know about this stuff? This is artificial catgut.
Oh, of course it is.
And because it's waxed, you can bind shit really tight with it and it will hold forever.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how much you go. This is like 600 yards or something like that.
Nope, there it is.
Okay.
This one's got a spike on it.
We can make that, manufacture that.
Mm-hmm.
We can even carve it like on the bandsaw out of some heavier
thicker
foam.
Yeah. I'm going to just pattern it flat and deal with this protrusion later.
Yes.
So I'm tapering these edges so they're super thin.
Oh, nice.
And then when I glue them down, they should blend pretty well. I mean, these I imagine were welded.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of getting them a little bit lower profile.
Plus, these are Nazgul. There can be rough edges on them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the crimes can get hidden by the by how dingy they are.
I do only rarely ever make a costume or a prop that's meant to look really clean.
I've done like at one point I built a museum quality prop, like a small delivery truck that had to match in every possible way the 1909 delivery truck of this company, and it was one of the hardest jobs I've ever done because it's like every detail had to be perfect. It had to look as if it came off of the Ford factory floor the day before, with every decal line being, it was exhausting. That museum work is a level of perfection that I am unused to.
This is, I think, a fairly simple piece. You know what? I can pattern the inside. Look at that. Oh, all right. Front.
Yep.
This looks very symmetrical. Front is there.
You can't over-label your stuff.
Nope. And this is the back, so I have to make sure I flip it over. The barge has dried long enough, and now I can add these spiky bits. I'm going to look at this and kind of see how I can position these a little bit.
I had some black welding gloves that are perfect for this. So I'm going to start to put these on so that we can put the other stuff on.
Okay. What's pretty bonkers too, all this foam we've used so far is like $5 worth of foam.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I also love about this specific hobby is how accessible it is. I like your application method for Varge. Mm-hmm. This is really nice.
You just get a little bit on there. You don't have to keep dipping into a cruddy container.
Yep. Yeah, I know. And the container that sits there and dries out on you. Yep. Stuff's about to happen.
This is where things are going to get cool. So this seam runs down the middle of the thumb piece. Whoops. And I'll cut this seam, and then we'll cut it out of foam. So when we glue those seams together, it'll force the two pieces of foam into this complex curve. I hope so anyway. I've done a couple of these. It'll probably work.
Okay, pinky. Yeah, look at that.
Yes. That's going to be great.
Dude, that is, I'm really blown away by how, that is a huge amount of detail and like value in terms of like prop replication for not a lot of sweat equity. I'm like kind of blown away. I suppose we could Chicago screw this on to the glove as well. Like once we start to do this, right?
Yeah.
We can mark and start to.
And these, all these parts.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I can, yeah. So that one goes under there. Yeah.
Those can all go on the glove.
Okay, I will get that going.
That looks pretty cool. Over here, this seam that I cut, to get the complex curve I want, I need to bevel these inner edges. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm just guessing the angle. I'm sure it'll be fine. So when this goes around the edge like that, I don't want it to skip. So I turn the rotary tool around so it's spinning in the opposite direction. And it doesn't do that.
Oh, I see what this. You may want to end up driving some little pin in here, or you know.
It doesn't want to bend
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't want to move forward with
Yeah.
it, which is fine. It doesn't have to.
Look, there's these pins up here. Look,
Yeah, yeah. They do.
those go
Right.
into that base of that
So
strap.
they can certainly be added.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's fantastic.
It sure is handy replicating something when you have it right in front of you.
I know.
We don't need screenshots. I am known to just load up a video game or a show or a movie on my TV screen and just take photos of the TV screen.
Yep, I've done that too.
Yep.
My first Blade, I actually have sketches of my first Blade Runner blaster build, which were done from sketches off of a VHS tape.
Nice. Here's my thumb. So I glued those two seams together. We have that nice,
nice
edge up there. And then everything has to have a little spike on it. Oh, I just noticed too, there's a little more detail. I can Dremel that in.
I'm almost done with this aspect of it. I can hand this off to you for that install of that last middle piece.
And this, we could even make a living hinge out of a piece of foam if we wanted to.
Yeah, we certainly could.
Yep.
Oh, right, it doesn't go on there, it sits there.
Yeah.
That's great. This thing is totally modular, so you can take it all the way apart again to fit you. Even if, right now, the only thing attaching this stuff to the hand is these two, which are going into the glove. Mm-hmm. They don't have to. In fact, in the real one, the pins here are attached to the fingers, and this goes to a leather strap around the palm. So there's some stuff to work out there, you know? All right, you're about to do that one, so that's the next piece to put on. This is super awesome. So I just did a little heat bend on that.
Oh, that looks
to
so
make
good.
it right.
That looks so good. See how it changes the surface to be a little more glossy too?
It totally does.
Yeah.
Also, it glues it together, I noticed. I know each one of them needs a little separation, but again, this is really, oh, there it is.
Yep.
And that's it?
And front.
Okay.
There you go.
So here it comes.
Kind of shines it up a bit. So this is what it looks like with the sanding bit, and if I go over it with this guy, I can really kind of shine it up.
Make it nice and smooth.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
That's a main sort of complaint people have sometimes with foam, is that when you really rough it up, it gets kind of fuzzy.
Right.
You can also kiss it with a blowtorch and just kind of fry all those.
That's cool too.
I mean, anything with a blowtorch is cool.
Yeah. Okay. Ha! Look at that! Dude, that is a tremendous amount of progress for a few hours work.
Yeah.
That is crazy gorgeous looking.
Not bad.
Okay, so this is a one-day build that does not complete here in my cave. The second half of this one-day build will happen in your cave up in Seattle.
My shop up in, and hopefully warmer Seattle.
So you're going to finish up the last parts of that and do the painting and finishing. So this is a two-part collaborative one-day. It has been such a pleasure to learn from you and watch how fast and efficient you've made this process. And also, what is this, like $5 worth of foam?
Yeah, it's super, super cheap.
I mean,
And accessible. There's nothing special about these tools.
Right.
Although it's been handy having a laser and,
Yeah.
and with the rest of what's going on in here.
Indeed.
But most of the work was just done with a Dremel and some knives.
I've gotten so much out of just the last few hours from the little bits of advice. I hope you've seen some tools and utilities that you might take back to your shop.
Absolutely.
I love that cross collaboration. All right, let's see it. Ah. Oh, yeah, click the link below to the video on Bill's channel.